Hey everybody, welcome to It Tastes Different Gaming and News. What's in the news today? Soulstorm, Oddworld Soulstorm sales sucked according to the developer. Oddworld Soulstorm was a free game on PlayStation Plus, which, according to the developer, screwed them out of 50 to 100,000 downloads. There was development issues with the game, which required them basically to buddy up with Sony to finish the game and then get it out onto the consoles. It was a Sony exclusive, released in April of 21. It was never made clear what kind of agreement that they had with the developer, but they did receive a one-time payment for the game. They were only estimating between, it was 50 to 100,000 they were guesstimating on sales. And then it turned out that they received let's see, where'd that go? I apologize. It was a crap load more. I cannot find the number. It was a crap load more. Did you find it?
Almost 4 million.
Almost 4 million. So they more than exceeded their expectations by like a crap ton. And because of that, though, and their one-time payment with Sony, they basically boned themselves of a lot of money. We reviewed the game and we all enjoyed it for the most part. There was some quirks that I didn't like, but it's an interesting position they put themselves in. Let's go to Nick and see what he thought, because I'm pretty sure he would love that game more than anybody. Nick, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love the Oddworld series. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I mean, because they didn't have enough money. Supposedly, they say they didn't have enough money to finish the project. And so this was a cash infusion that they could get in order to do so. But they had to put it out day one release on PlayStation Plus, which is, of course, going to give them more downloads, right? Like you said, they were expecting 50 to 100,000 downloads, I think. I don't think sales in general, maybe. But the way the article writes, it almost feels like they were expecting that in digital downloads. Not necessarily physical purchases, but regardless, and I don't even know if that game came out physically. Actually, I think it was all digital, right? I'm pretty sure. So yeah, so it'd be just like that's what they were expecting. So they got a ton more. So, but they got a ton more because a lot of people, not everybody plays the game, right? Especially when those free games come out on PlayStation Plus and even on Xbox. A lot of people will just add them to their library without even the thought of possibly even playing them. I know I do that. I'll add games to, if the free ones, I'll just add them to my library, even though, it could be like, I'm not a big into sports, but it could be like NHL 99 or something like that. And I'm like, sure, I'll add it. Like, I'll never play it, but I'll put it in my list of games. Right. And so I think a lot of people did that. So, were they really missing out on that? I don't know. I mean, and they didn't have the cash to really finish off the game. And it also makes me wonder about, what Xbox does differently, right? We have Game Pass games from third parties that come in, and Xbox seems to, from what I understand, is they do some sort of cash infusion like that as well, like a one-time payment. But I don't know if they do something maybe a little bit differently that's more enticing for those third parties, like I don't know, a cash payment with cash down the road or something like that. I'm not sure. So it would be interesting to find out how Xbox does theirs compared to what Sony does. And this is not in every case, right? For Oddworld, it was a one-time cash infusion, but would they have had the same, it makes me wonder if they would have the same saying if this was the Xbox Game Pass that they went out day one. Would they come out and say the same thing for that? Because we don't hear a lot of developers saying that Game Pass was bad for them, and whereas PlayStation Plus I would assume would be the same thing, but it clearly either Microsoft has something within their within their legal documentation that says you can't badmouth Game Pass after you put it out here, right? Or they're doing something different, so it's more enticing to developers to come there and release their games day one, like a bigger cash infusion than than they would normally expect, right? So it's very interesting. It just kind of brings back that discussion that used to be around when Game Pass first started, right? That whole are these industries, are these companies, the developers, are they screwing themselves over by putting themselves on Game Pass day one, or in this case on PlayStation Plus, day one? Are they screwing themselves over? Because we had those kind of articles and those talks when Game Pass first came out, if you guys remember that. And then they've kind of gone away from now, right? And those articles that did come out from that, those were those few articles that we did have about it for Game Pass. It seemed like those people were just bitter to be bitter, is how it was written, right? So it's very interesting to see, or to kind of understand, how PlayStation and Microsoft deal with these types of day one releases. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I think this is in bad form for the developer, in my opinion. If they thought this, they shouldn't have put it out in words, to be honest with you, because in my opinion, it shows a lack of understanding of statistics in the gaming as a whole, right? Because a download doesn't equal a sale. I'm sorry, but there's plenty of people like you and I and Shane out there that if it's a free game, I'm adding it to my library and I may never play it. I have plenty of games on Epic that I got because it's the free game on Epic, right? Same thing on Game Pass, and the same thing with when it had the games with gold. You can get the free games, and I did all that. And I'm never going to play probably half of them, if not even more of them. So it's bad. In my opinion, it's bad form for the developer because, Sony bailed their studio out. They were unsure if the game was going to be able to get done because they had no money. And so Sony's like, let's cut a deal. We'll infuse you with an undisclosed amount of money to fund your game, and we want you to be on PlayStation Plus. And they got almost 4 million downloads, and it's like, that doesn't equate to people purchasing the game. Because to be honest with you, if we weren't reviewing it, I wouldn't have bought it. I would have downloaded it because I had PlayStation Plus, but I would not have bought it. I'm one of those people. I like the old series, but this new one didn't look like anything I was interested in. So because I got to play it for free, I downloaded it and we did the review on it. So I think this is just in bad form for the developer, and somebody needs to go back to math and statistics class that just because it was a download doesn't mean you lost a sale. So it doesn't mean you lost 4 million sales of the game. Sorry, but that's the way it works out. I doubt you lost out on 3 million sales because of PlayStation Plus. I mean, I don't think you lost out on nearly close to as much as you thought you think you did. If the game wasn't on PlayStation Plus and free, if a game wasn't free on PlayStation Plus, your sales would have it may have had a little bit higher number, but I don't think in the millions higher. That's just my opinion, though. I mean, there's plenty of people out there who play and love the game and series, but I don't think you lost out on $1 million worth of sales. That's just my opinion, but I just think it's bad form of the developer because it's like going into your next job and complaining about your last job when you're trying to get hired on at the new company, because that doesn't look good to anybody, right? If you're interviewing for a new position or you're trying to pitch the next thing to your next investor and talking about how shitty the last guy was, it's like, wonder what he's going to do when we're done doing business with him. Our employment concludes with them. So that's always bad form. And it's unfortunate that they did this, because I don't think it happened. I don't think they lost out on 3 million, but I also think that if you did, you should have just kept your mouth shut about it, because Lorne Lanning just basically probably put his foot in his mouth for anything of Sony ever doing something like this with them again. So who knows? But I don't think you did that. What about you, Shane? I mean, do you think they really lost out on millions of sales?
I think there's not a chance they lost out on millions. I think their guesstimate of 40 to 100,000 would have been an accurate amount, because I mean, Nick, myself, we all grew up on that game. But would we have bought it really? Nick definitely would have. He probably wouldn't have played it, but he would have bought it because he's nostalgic that way. Really, and that's it's not even a knock. It's just him. I think it was a really bad idea to take such a deal on that from Sony. Sony's going to give you an infusion of cash to finish the game. Then they're going to give you a one-time payment for that game going on PlayStation Network. PlayStation only and PlayStation Plus. So what they should have done was they should have took a percentage of downloads. So if this game gets 10,000 downloads, you give me $1 a download, or whatever. I'm not going to go into all the math, but they should have done something like that, because a one-time payment. Did they really do the math and think, all right, so if we hit that 100,000 sale, what was the game cost when you bought it outright? Does anybody remember? It was $30-$40.
Was it not a full price game?
I don't believe it was 60 or 70. But anyways, so if they would have thought that game was 100,000 sales and they got $40 a sale, I mean, that's what, $400,000? My math right?
I mean, yeah, if it's a $40 game and you said they had 100,000 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, if they hit their peaks for what they were guesstimating, would you have told Sony, all right, give me a $400,000 check?
I mean, that's a $4 million check. Right?
Or $4 million check. Do you think they would have, do you think that's what they took on that?
I mean, I don't know how much. Yeah, Sony's never going to tell us how many that they did. So if they're expecting 100,000 downloads at $40 a pop, they basically said, okay, you injected $4 million into us, or maybe they said $2 million. Who knows what Sony put into them? We'll never know.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a bunch of bad decisions on the developer's part. Even if Sony knew that they were going to, screw them over, I mean, it's not their fault that they took a bite of that bait. They should have thought about it a little bit harder. I mean, Oddworld franchise, everybody knows it's a beloved franchise for decades. I'm sure they should have had other options they could have went with. It was probably a greed thing. It was probably a big head thing. And then, they got down to the end at the wire and Sony was like, I'm still here, but my offer got lower. I think they're angry about it. They put out a good game overall, but I think it's just anger issues because they want to believe they missed on 4 million sales, but they wouldn't have got 4 million downloads. You're absolutely right. So if they would have they got advertisement from PlayStation Plus. So they probably increased some of their sales due to it being on PlayStation Plus because, person A says, man, you got to check it out. It's on PlayStation Plus. And person B is like, well, I don't have it. Yeah, but it's only $20, $30, $40, whatever it was. That probably increased a few sales, but it could have lost some sales too, for the PlayStation Plus users. So it seems like a can of sour apples. It seems like just somebody wanting to bitch and vent. And you're right, Pat. The chance of Sony ever wanting to work with them again on something, they just crapped on those chances. So, Microsoft's going to be over there. I got you covered, but it's going to be a little bit cheaper.
Right.
So
yeah, it looks like it was a $50 game when it released. So it was $49.99. So it was a $50 game when it released, and
that's
so it's I don't know. It's just bad form. Even if they did lose out, maybe keep this for your memoirs for when your company goes tits up. That way you don't have to worry about ever having to work with them again, or if you ever decide to retire from being developing video games. But, I think that no matter where Lorne Landing goes, PlayStation is going to be like, nah, you screwed us, dude. You talk shit. We don't want to do business with you anymore. Go somewhere else. And as long as he is still with Oddworld Inhabitants, which he's the founder of, they're not going to want to do business. I wouldn't want to do business with somebody like that, right? If I was Microsoft, I'd be like, no, you're toxic. You had somebody help bail you out and offer you something you accepted, and now you're going to talk trash on it. So it's one thing, right, to talk trash on it, but to go out on a podcast, because I think that's where this came from, was a podcast, and then blatantly just blare out that this thing was devastating to your company because you lost out on sales. I don't think it's as devastating as that you're saying, because I don't think you can do math.
Bad. It just comes down to people making dumb and bad decisions, not thinking through, and not, just straight up, I think they were weak kneed at the end, and they took what they could get so they could get it out. And it sucks for them, because now they just really screwed themselves. I mean, I wouldn't
Well, yeah,
want
'cause
to work with them.
it almost sounds like we anticipated the game to do a lot worse than the money offering that Sony made us. So that's why we made the deal. So it sounded like they almost like he was anticipating making money off of Sony, but the game just tanking. And when PlayStation got a boon because it was on Plus, it was like, oh my God, we lost out on millions.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. You got this. You got this because it was $15. Because if you weren't subscribed to PlayStation Plus and you wanted to, is PlayStation Plus, is that the $9 one? What it was? I think I was a $9 a month one or something.
Yeah,
I can't
it's
remember what the
$9.99 a month for
so
regular
you pay
PlayStation
$10
Plus.
and you get to play this $50 game for a month. And most of us don't have the attention span to play something like that more than a month anyway. So, you know, if you wanted to play it, you could pay $10 or you could pay $50 to the developer. Either one, it's your choice. But most of us just do it, add it to our library of games that maybe we'll get to one day or maybe we won't. But we wouldn't have bought your game anyway. So, you know, count this group. We're not the majority or whatever, but I would say we're an average group of gamers. And there's 4 of us that typically play together. And Russ would not have bought this game. I wouldn't have bought this game, and neither would Shane. So 1/4 of our party would have bought this game at $50 price tag. Yep. So that should tell you right there, your download numbers don't mean jack.
Well, hold on. Before we put the words in Nick's mouth, Nick, would you have bought this game?
If it was just purchase only?
Yep.
No download? Yeah, I would have. That's right. Because
we know Nick.
Me. But yeah, I mean, looking it up, this Oddworld, the franchise in itself is only, looking it up, it's the entire franchise as a whole has only sold 7 million copies of the entire franchise as a whole, right? And there's quite a few Oddworld games out there. We're not talking about just the Abe's Odysseys and the Abe's Exodus. We got the one that came on the original Xbox, Munch's Adventure or whatever. And then you have the Stranger's Wrath and stuff like that. So collectively, if you look at it, you know, if they were, I mean, they didn't miss out on that 4 million. Your entire franchise has only sold 7. So this new one's not going to sell that much, but you're exactly right. And it's not like Sony owned or owns Oddworld Inhabitants, you know? So it's not like Sony was, you know, it's one thing if Sony were to come out and say, okay, this game's going on PlayStation Plus as a free download, right? Because we own you, so that's what we're doing, right? It's another thing to say, okay, hey, we'll help bail you out, but this is our deal. We're going to put it on our service as for free. You know, we're giving this cash up front. So yeah, exactly right. You guys are exactly right. You took that deal. You said, okay, we're going to take it. And you did it. So you can't come back and say, oh, look, we, you know, bad on them or bad on this or whatever. You know, maybe bad on you because you took the deal. Maybe that's what you're mad about, you know, with this. But yeah, that 4 million downloads wouldn't have happened if it wasn't free on there. You know, I love Oddworld as a series and as a franchise, but it does have a small, you know, unfortunately, you know, it does have a small player base, right? It has a small group of fans out there that like the series. That's why the whole series has only sold 7 million copies, right? And it's never been this big blockbuster like, oh, I can't wait for the next Abe game, right? The people that do like that game, you know, are interested to see what's coming next. But the people, you know, there's a lot of people that don't care for the franchise or care for the game. So, yeah, I mean, you're just shooting yourself in the foot with that. You know, just take it as it is, make it as a lessons learned type of thing and move on, right? But yeah, you're shooting yourself in the foot because exactly right. Sony and even Microsoft in this case and other people, Epic or whoever, may not do a deal with you in the next game, right? If you need help or whatever. And now you're screwed. Now you can't get that game out the door because you don't have enough money and nobody wants to work with you.
I think the moral of the story is don't be a douche. All right.
Don't shit where you eat.
Unless you like eating shit.
The more you know.
All right. You guys got anything else about this odd story about Oddworld? All right. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Steven, keep those comments coming. We appreciate them. And tell your friends. Don't forget to hit like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. We're going to tell you every episode. Give us your feedback, too. What do you think about this whole story? What do you think about the Oddworld franchise? What do you think about Nick being the only one to buy the damn thing? Until then, we'll see you next time. See ya.